After exploring the beautiful Swiss Alps, it was finally time for our next destination, Italy. We took the train across the border, passing through the charming town of Domodossola before arriving in Milan. Our Italian adventure officially begins. Even though it was only a short stop, Domodossola immediately caught my attention. The station was surrounded by mountains that made the town feel peaceful. We arrived at Milan Central Station in the evening. It is one of the largest railway stations in Europe, and honestly, it felt more like a grand palace than a train station. Just standing beneath the huge ceiling made me stop for a moment and admire its architecture. We stayed one night in Milan. The next morning, with our luggage packed and tickets ready, we boarded another train, leaving Milan behind and making our way to Venice, a city I had been looking forward to visiting. The moment I stepped out of Venice Santa Lucia station, I understood why so many people fall in love with this city. Instead of roads filled with cars, I was greeted by canals, boats, and centuries-old buildings. Of course, no trip to Italy is complete without trying the food. We ordered pizza, squid ink risotto, aglio olio pasta, fried squid and fries. The aglio olio had a light garlic aroma that was simple but delicious. The squid ink risotto was surprisingly good. The pizza was flavorful with a crispy crust and just the right amount of cheese. The fried squid was crispy, although the seasoning was quite mild. One of Venice's most iconic symbols is the gondola. For hundreds of years, these elegant boats have been used to travel through the canals. Today, they are one of the most romantic experiences visitors can enjoy. It's easy to see why Venice is often called one of the most romantic cities in the world. One of my favorite things about Venice was simply walking. Every corner looked like a painting. Small bridges, narrow streets, colorful buildings reflecting on the water. There wasn't a single place that didn't feel photogenic. Venice felt completely different from anywhere I have ever been. It was founded over 1,500 years ago on more than 100 small islands connected by hundreds of bridges. For centuries, it was one of Europe's greatest trading cities. Today, it's famous for its canals, historic architecture, and timeless charm. There's something incredibly peaceful about Venice. No traffic, no busy highways, just the sound of water, boats passing by, and people slowly enjoying the city. Time somehow feels slower here. After working for hours, it was finally time for gelato. I chose lemon and tiramisu. There were so many flavors that I wanted to try, but it was hard to choose just two. The lemon flavor was refreshing with the perfect balance of sweetness and sourness. Definitely one of my favorite gelatos during the trip. The more I explored Venice, the more I fell in love with it. Everywhere I looked, there were beautiful canals, elegant buildings, and endless postcard-worthy views. No matter which direction I walked, there was always something beautiful waiting around the corner. We eventually arrived at St. Mark's Square, the heart of Venice. Surrounded by beautiful historic buildings, cafes, and pigeons, it's one of the city's most famous landmarks. No matter where you look, the atmosphere feels elegant and full of history. Since tiramisu was invented in Italy, I couldn't live without trying one. Rich, creamy, and not overly sweet, it tasted even better than I expected. We also tried fresh pasta made right in front of us. The carbonara was rich, creamy, and surprisingly not too heavy. Simple ingredients but full of flavor. Before leaving, we couldn't resist stopping by another dessert shop. This time, we tried the pistachio cannolo. The crispy shell paired perfectly with the rich and creamy pistachio filling. It was the perfect little treat to end our time in Venice. With the sun still shining brightly, we spent a few more quiet moments by the water, simply taking in the view. Sometimes the best part of traveling isn't rushing from one attraction to another, it's slowing down and appreciating where you are. Soon, it was time to leave the island and head back to our hotel. As we rode the tram, I couldn't help looking back on such a wonderful day. Venice wasn't just beautiful, it felt peaceful and romantic. I love the charming canals, the beautiful historic buildings, and the relaxed atmosphere that make every walk feel special. It's a city that makes you slow down, look around, and truly enjoy the moment. The next morning, we packed our bags once again and made our way to the train station. Before boarding, I grabbed a small muffin for breakfast. We had booked business class for this journey, and the seats were much more spacious and comfortable, making the ride even more relaxing. The journey to Florence took around 2 hours. Outside the window, the scenery was simple but peaceful, with train stations, row of buildings, green trees, and clear blue skies passing by. Before long, we arrived in Florence. After checking in into our Airbnb, we headed out to explore the city. Walking through the streets for the first time, Florence immediately felt different from Venice. It had a more local, relaxed atmosphere, and I couldn't wait to discover more. We hopped on a bus and headed into the heart of Florence. Our first stop was brunch at the Rooster Cafe. We ordered grandma style pancakes, fried chicken and waffles, a big breakfast, and a beef burger. Everything was delicious. The pancakes were incredibly soft and fluffy, and even the whipped cream was light without being overly sweet. The burger was juicy. It was the perfect way to start the day. After brunch, we wandered through the streets of Florence. The weather couldn't have been better, with bright blue skies making the city's Renaissance architecture look even more beautiful. Every street seemed to have its own charm, and I found myself constantly stopping to admire the buildings around me. Soon, we arrived at Florence Cathedral, also known as the Duomo. Its iconic dome was designed by Filippo Brunelleschi in the 15th century and is considered one of the greatest engineering achievements of the Renaissance. Standing beneath the cathedral, I couldn't help but be amazed by the intricate marble details covering every side of the building. It's even more impressive in person than in photos. We continue exploring the city, passing lively streets and crossing the Arno River, one of Florence's most famous landmarks. Then, we stopped for another gelato at a shop recommended by our Airbnb host. I chose lemon and strawberry, and both flavors were refreshing and full of natural fruit flavor. Then we headed up to Piazza Michelangelo, and the walk was definitely worth it. The path was surrounded by greenery and flowers, making the climb surprisingly enjoyable. When we finally reached the top, we were rewarded with one of the best views of Florence. People were sitting on the steps, chatting with friends, enjoying a drink, and simply soaking in the view. From up there, the city's red rooftops, historic buildings, and the Arno River stretched out before us. It was one of those moments that made me slow down and truly appreciate the journey. A street musician was performing, and many people stopped to listen. It made the whole atmosphere feel peaceful and romantic. For dinner, we enjoy another delicious Italian meal. We ordered carbonara, seafood aglio olio, and fried shrimp and squid. Simple, fresh, and full of flavor, another meal that didn't disappoint. As evening arrived, we caught a bus back. The blue hour painted the sky in soft shades of blue, and the sunset reflected beautifully across the Arno River. It was a peaceful ending to another unforgettable day in Italy. The next morning, we left our Airbnb early and took a bus to the train station. Before catching our train, we grabbed a quick breakfast from McDonald's along with a freshly baked croissant. Our first destination for the day was Pisa. After arriving at Pisa San Rosso station, it was only a short walk before we caught our first glimpse of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. One of the world's most famous landmarks, the tower began construction in 1173 as the Bell Tower of Pisa Cathedral. It started leaning while it was still being built because the soft ground underneath couldn't properly support its weight. Seeing it in person was definitely surreal. After visiting the tower, we stopped at a nearby cafe for brunch. There were so many attractive pastries that I wanted to try. We ordered a margarita pizza, eggs Benedict, and two other pizza. The pizza was surprisingly simple, topped with just tomato sauce, mozzarella, and basil, but that's exactly what made it so delicious. Fresh ingredients, simpler flavor, and perfectly baked, it reminded me that Italian food doesn't need to be complicated to taste amazing. After brunch, we walked back to the train station and continued our journey to Manarola, changing trains at La Spezia Central. As soon as we arrived, I could immediately see why so many people fell in love with this place. Manarola is one of the five villages that make up Cinque Terre, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The colorful houses are built dramatically along the cliffs overlooking the sea, creating one of the most recognizable coastal views in Italy. It's often said that fishermen painted their house in bright colors so they could easily recognize them when returning from the sea. And whether legend or history, it certainly adds to the village charm. The combination of colorful buildings, rock cliffs, crystal clear water, and a warm afternoon sunshine made the scenery feel almost unreal. It was such a small village, yet every corner felt peaceful, charming, and full of character. Sometimes, simply walking around without any plans become part of the journey. As the afternoon came to an end, we took the tram back to La Spezia Central. Before heading back to Florence, we grabbed a quick dinner at McDonald's. After another train ride, we finally arrived back in Florence, ending another unforgettable day exploring Italy. Our final full day in Italy began with another train ride, this time back to Milan. After arriving at Milano Central, we took a bus and enjoyed a leisurely walk through the city. The elegant architecture and beautiful streets reminded me once again why Italy is such a wonderful place to explore on foot. For lunch, we visited a local restaurant and quickly realized that everyone was required to order a main course. We ended up ordering 3 pizzas and 2 pasta dishes, far more food that we can finish. Everything was absolutely delicious. The pizzas had thin, crispy crust, while the pasta was fresh, rich, and full of flavor. Even though we couldn't finish everything, it was definitely one of the most satisfying meals of the trip. After lunch, we continued exploring Milan before arriving at the magnificent Milan Cathedral. Also known as the Duomo di Milano, construction began in 1386 and took nearly 6 centuries to complete. It is the largest church in Italy and one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in the world. Standing in front of it, I was amazed by the countless marble spires and detailed sculpture and incredible craftsmanship. The cathedral looked even more breathtaking in person than in photos. It was the perfect place to spend the final afternoon of our Italian adventure. After that, we continued wandering around Milan and spent some time browsing supermarkets to grab souvenirs. The next morning, it was finally time to head to the airport. Breathtaking snow-capped mountains appeared outside the window of airport. It felt like the perfect final view to end this incredible journey. Thank you, Italy, for the unforgettable memories. Until next time.